Darkness never guaranteed sleep. A hunter lies flat against the cold stone floor of a shallow, quiet cave. His body is completely exhausted. His eyes refuse to close. Somewhere beyond the mouth of the cave, something large and unseen is moving through dry brush, and every muscle in his back stays locked, waiting. Most people picture ancient nights as simple and quiet. Sun goes down, body shuts off completely, morning comes without incident. Clean, automatic. Nothing like the tossing, screen-lit insomnia of modern life. That picture is comforting. It is also wrong, and the real story of what happened when an ancient human could not sleep reveals something far more dangerous and far more human than a peaceful blackout every night. Sleep researchers studying 3 modern hunter-gatherer societies, the Hadza and San peoples of Africa and the Tsimen of Bolivia, recorded something that surprised almost everyone in the field. These groups have 0 electricity, 0 screens, 0 artificial light pollution. By the old assumption, they should sleep like stones the instant the sun disappears. They do not. Recorded sleep in these communities averaged close to 6.5 hours a night, not dramatically different from many industrialized populations. Darkness fell for nearly 12 hours. Sleep filled only about half of it. Temperature, not darkness, appeared to matter more. Sleep onset in these groups tracked closely with a drop in ambient temperature after sunset, not with the sun itself disappearing. Cold, not black sky, seemed to be pulling the body toward rest. Night itself was never a neutral backdrop either. Many of the predators that ancient humans shared their landscape with, lions among them, are documented by wildlife researchers as significantly more active after dark, relying on low light and reduced visibility to close the distance on prey before being noticed. For an ancient group camped in the open, the hours of deepest human sleepiness lined up almost exactly with the hours of greatest predator activity. Nightfall was not simply the end of the working day. It was the opening of the most dangerous shift. Here is the twist inside the twist. Researchers studying these same populations found something almost nobody expected. A word for insomnia barely exists in some of these languages, and complaints resembling chronic sleeplessness were essentially never reported, not because these men slept effortlessly every night. Because broken, interrupted, restless sleep was simply normal, expected, never framed as a problem to be solved. There is another detail historians have uncovered that reshapes this picture even further, one that has nothing to do with hunter-gatherers directly, but says something important about how naturally human sleep resists staying in one unbroken block. Historical research examining pre-industrial European households, drawn from court records, diaries, and medical texts written long before electric lighting existed, found repeated references to something called first sleep and second sleep, 2 distinct blocks of rest separated by an hour or more of quiet wakefulness in the middle of the night. People used that gap for prayer, conversation, small tasks, or simply lying still in the dark. This pattern appears to fade only after artificial lighting became common enough to push sleep into a single, compressed block. It suggests the tidy, uninterrupted 8-hour night so many people today assume is natural may itself be a relatively recent invention. And that ancient, broken, segmented sleep may be closer to a default human setting than a flaw. Picture a young hunter on watch, near the edge of a resting group. Firelight throws long shadows across the rocks. He is tired down to his bones from a full day of tracking game, but his ears stay open for every snapped branch. His body understands something his mind may never put into words. Rest and safety are not the same thing, and one cannot always wait for the other. So what actually happens inside a human body that goes without real sleep for too long? The effects begin fast, and they are not subtle. Reaction time drops within the first missed night, sometimes matching levels seen in someone legally too impaired to operate machinery. Immune function weakens noticeably within days, leaving the body more vulnerable to infection at the exact moment infection was one of the deadliest threats a person could face. Mood destabilizes. Irritability rises. Judgment, the very thing needed most when danger is closest, becomes unreliable precisely when it matters most. There is a strange and often overlooked piece of this story tied directly to dreaming itself. A well-documented theory in sleep science, sometimes called the threat simulation theory of dreaming, proposes that dreams featuring danger, chasing, hiding, or narrow escape are not random noise from a resting brain, but a kind of low-stakes rehearsal system, letting the mind practice recognizing and responding to threats without any real physical risk attached. Researchers studying dream content across different populations have found threat-related dreams to be remarkably common and consistent, supporting the idea that this rehearsal function runs deep in human biology rather than being shaped purely by modern anxieties. For an ancient hunter, a mind that spent part of the night quietly simulating predator encounters, sudden falls, or confrontations with rivals may have arrived at the next real threat, slightly better prepared. Its threat recognition circuits, already warmed up by hours of unconscious practice. For an ancient hunter, this was not an inconvenience. A single badly timed night without real rest could mean a missed footstep on a hunt, a slower reaction to a predator's approach, a fatal half-second of hesitation. Sleep loss was never just about feeling groggy. It was a direct, physical threat multiplier layered on top of every other danger already stacked against survival. Ask yourself something honestly, right now, without overthinking it. If your own life depended daily on catching a predator's warning sound half a second before it reached you, do you think your body would let you sleep as deeply as it does tonight? Fire changed this equation more than almost any other tool early humans ever mastered. A steady flame did more than provide warmth. Large nocturnal predators generally avoid direct, active fire, and a maintained blaze meaningfully reduced the odds of a silent approach going undetected. Groups with reliable fire could likely afford slightly deeper, slightly longer stretches of rest than groups without it. Another quiet advantage layered onto a technology already credited with cooking, warmth, and protection. Even then, someone still had to keep that fire fed through the night, which meant the rotation of wakefulness never fully disappeared. It simply shifted from watching purely for danger to watching for danger while also tending flame, one more task folded into the same sleepless shift. This is where a real behavioral pattern, documented far beyond humans, becomes genuinely important. Highly social, ground-dwelling animals facing constant predator pressure have evolved a strikingly consistent solution: rotating vigilance. Meerkats, one of the most thoroughly studied examples in behavioral ecology, post individual sentries who stand guard while the rest of the group forages or rests. Then rotate that duty throughout the day, so no single animal bears the full cost of constant alertness alone. Early human groups appear to have arrived at something functionally similar, built not from written rules, but from necessity repeated night after night. A shifting rotation of wakefulness, someone alert while others rested, meant the group as a whole could maintain near constant vigilance without any single man being destroyed by total, uninterrupted sleep deprivation. The cost of watching was shared, spread across many shoulders instead of crushing one. Picture the scene now from a wider angle. A small fire burned low. Several men curled near it, breathing slow and even. One man sitting upright at the perimeter, spear resting across his knees, eyes moving steadily across the darkness. He will wake the next man in an hour or two. This was not weakness disguised as duty. This was a system, refined by consequence, where survival depended on nobody sleeping too deeply, too long, all at once. Children in these groups faced their own version of this same problem, and adults appear to have adjusted for it instinctively. Young children generally require deeper, longer, less interrupted sleep for healthy physical and mental development, something modern pediatric research confirms repeatedly. A child simply could not be expected to take a shift on watch, or wake reliably at the sound of danger the way a grown man could. Evidence from studying group sleeping arrangements in traditional societies today suggests children were typically positioned at the safest, most protected point in a resting group, often nearest the fire and furthest from the open edge of camp, surrounded on every side by adults whose own broken, lighter sleep effectively formed a living perimeter around them. There is a harder layer to this story too, one that goes beyond simple exhaustion. Sleep architecture itself changes with age, a biological reality confirmed repeatedly in modern clinical research. Older adults naturally spend less time in deep, restorative sleep stages and wake more frequently through the night, regardless of environment or lifestyle. For an aging member of an ancient group, someone whose eyesight and hearing may have already been fading, broken sleep was not simply likely. It was biologically built in, layered on top of every other physical decline already working against him. An elder lying awake in the deep hours before dawn, listening to the slow, steady breathing of younger men resting around him, carried something valuable precisely because of that broken sleep. Something the group rarely had to ask for and almost never had to explain. Extra hours of quiet, involuntary watchfulness. A second layer of alertness the group did not have to assign, schedule, or negotiate. It simply existed, a side effect of aging turned, almost by accident, into a genuine survival asset carried by the very men considered least physically useful by every other measure. In the most extreme, and thankfully rare cases, the human body demonstrates just how essential sleep truly is by what happens in its near-total absence. A documented, genetic medical condition known as fatal familial insomnia causes a small number of people worldwide to gradually lose the ability to sleep at all, with devastating and ultimately fatal consequences within roughly a year or two of onset. This condition is exceptionally rare, and entirely unrelated to ordinary tiredness or occasional sleepless nights, but it stands as stark, sobering proof of a deeper truth. Sleep is not a luxury layered on top of survival. It is a core requirement the body cannot indefinitely operate without, ancient or modern. So picture that same ancient hunter again, still lying rigid on the cold stone floor, sleep refusing to fully arrive, even as exhaustion presses down on him. He is not broken. He is not failing at something every other ancient human effortlessly mastered. He is doing exactly what his body, his environment, and his entire evolutionary history built him to do, staying just alert enough, just often enough, to see the next sunrise. That single, restless night, repeated in some form across nearly every ancient human who ever lived, was never really the enemy. It was the price paid, night after night, generation after generation, for a species that made it this far precisely, because so many of its members refused to let themselves sleep too deeply, all at the exact same time, all at once, together.